Welcome to the Work Heartily podcast, where we grab no more than 15 minutes with Nashville founders and executives you need to know and ask them one big question. I'm your host, Jonathan Barnes, coming to you live from Work Heartily headquarters here in Nashville, Tennessee, where we help growing Nashville area businesses win through embedded fractional leadership. Today, we have Chad Blackburn with us, an investor, entrepreneur, and founder based here in Nashville. Glad you are here, Chad. Are you ready to jump in?
Let's do it. Thanks for having me.
All right, here we go. Here's your one question. What operational change saved you the most time or money?
You asked me the exact right question. It's almost like I knew what you were going to ask me. But,
It's magic.
Jonathan,
It's magic.
I think we would have to rewind this, right? Because I think it's not just what change, it is how have these tranched out on a journey of learning how to delegate, right? And everybody goes through this in their professional career where you get to a point where one in, one out doesn't work anymore and you yourself do not scale. And
Totally true. Man,
at that point, you've got
yeah.
a few different paths you can take. And it usually all goes to learning how to be a good delegator, figuring out what needs to be delegated, what you need to be spending your time on. So a few years ago, as I was meeting with mentors and other business leaders, I really started pressing to have them give me advice on what they had done to help them scale and how they delegated and what they were doing now, what they had learned and what they wish they knew, and all of those things that helps you execute on being a good delegator. And so it's been a journey of just chipping away and getting better at that. There's no silver bullet, and it's different for everybody is what I found. And maybe this is just me, but the way that I accomplish a lot of stuff is I just kind of YOLO into it. And
That sounds like
start
a lot of
figuring it-
founders that I know, right? I mean, they're like, hey, it's working. Let me just do more of it.
Right. Yeah. So a little bit of trial and error, but having an executive assistant is a game changer. Now, I think that can come in a lot of different forms, right? It can be a virtual assistant. It can be an AI assistant. It can be an actual executive assistant that's in the office with you. It just depends on what you need and what your needs are. But I think taking that step, even if it is the least expensive way you can possibly do that, is an essential for anybody that is needing to scale their effort. Because if you think that you can do it without one, it's just harder without it. It really is.
How did you, when you were talking to, advisors and mentors early on, how did it change the way you said, okay, this is exactly what I need to delegate. This is what I don't need to delegate. How did you determine those two different paths?
I think as I went through my daily life, just the fact that I had officially engaged my brain on this task and on this problem, I started to see areas. I remember back in the summer of 21, it was like a Sunday afternoon. It was hot. It was pretty, but it was a hot day. And I was out in the front yard with a piece of commercial landscaping equipment, leaning over some sticker bushes, trimming them. And my wife and children were on the golf cart driving down the driveway headed to the pool. And I was like, what the heck am I doing out here? Like, what? Why am I out here trimming a bush? This is stupid. I don't enjoy this. This adds no value. I can have somebody do this for me for not much money at all. Like, why am I doing this? This is not an emergency, right? It's not like I got people coming over tonight and it's got to be done, right? So it becomes evident when you start measuring. I was listening to a podcast this morning and they were talking about just switching on some of the monitoring tools that are built into your MacBook and your phone. I think it's like time manager or whatever, but basically it gives you a report on what apps you had open and how long were you dwelling on those, right? And so anything you can do to reveal data that helps you understand where you're spending time. And if you can analyze that just by taking a quick glance and say, hey, you know what? I actually don't need to be spending time on that. That's probably a good idea or a good signal that it's time to kick that to some sort of assistant, whether it's an AI agent, which you and I are both way down the rabbit hole. Obviously, that's a very new thing that we've had.
Losing sleep, currently losing sleep, thinking through all the different avenues there. It's crazy.
I have to like force myself to go to bed because I'm sitting here just banging it out, battling with an army of AI agents at this point.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Back to your like your trimming the bush kind of analogy. You probably that was kind of like a aha moment. But a lot of times when founders are dealing with this kind of day to day in their business and they're just doing it because they can, they shouldn't, but they can. And
Hmm.
taking some time to think through, like, all right, I'm going to spend umpteen minutes per week just reflecting on my last week and figuring out a task audit process and saying, man, basically what those tools you just mentioned, or even just looking at your calendar, the old school way of looking at your calendar, man, I spent a lot of time doing this, this, and this. 2 out of 3 of those categories, I shouldn't be doing. This one category I love to do and I'm really good at it. I need to spend more time doing that. So just taking some time to think through like a task audit process and then doing that over the course of, 2 or 3 weeks, even then just knowing, okay, as I'm building my next week's calendar, learning from the past and then projecting into the future what I should be doing. And then those little things those are tiny little incremental steps you can take along the way. And if you have an assistant or somebody helping you or an AI assistant helping you, you give them those little tasks along the way to free up the time so you can actually use your brain towards the things that make money, make the most sense, use your talents and gifts, and drive your vision for the company that you're building even further. It's a little thing, but most people don't take the time just to do like that little audit or that reflection period. Tell me a little bit about if that makes sense to you, of course, and if that makes where that falls within your calendaring delegation kind of stack.
Right. Yeah. Um, so Jonathan, actually one of the agents that I'm building is designed to do just this. So as I was, spawning up new agents and giving them new tasks, it occurred to me that it would be really nice to have an agent. Now I'm using local tools to do this, so no data is leaving the box,
Right.
but um, it's a it actually has access to all of my meeting transcriptions, all of my work documents for my new venture. It has access to all of my emails, and I call it the Oracle. And its mission is to continually munch on all of this data. And of course, I'm going to give it even more data. I gave it a big JSON file with a bunch of supporting information that I was able to pull out of OpenAI about all of my chat history.
Yeah.
A
Nice.
lot of good data in there. But the goal here is to have that data lake and have that highly curated and analyzed so that when I need to do a strategic session, or if I need to be reminded what things that I'm doing that I'm wasting time or what the priorities are. But the goal here is to have that AI agent have the ability to actually be able to discern if something is
Mm,
relevant to the new venture or not. Because, you get into these calls, you might talk about all kinds of things.
yeah.
Um,
Exactly.
and so that's its task. And of course, the goal there is to support this continued quest to delegation and focus.
Yeah.
So, and I think that tool is going to be highly versatile in ways that I don't even understand yet. But, I went ahead and gave it API access into DocuSign, right? If I need to send an NDA, why do I need to go through in there and click those things? I don't need to do that. If it needs to consume the call transcript from a prospecting call that I was just on. Why do I need to then go in and put that information in HubSpot? Because it's got a service account inside of HubSpot.
Sure.
So, constantly looking for those opportunities. Now, a lot of these things are new school,
Yeah,
and I do.
I would say, yeah, you're way down the line of what
Yeah,
most people are thinking about. And I would say that that's the visualized like future for most people. You
right.
know, even when you were first starting, just having an EA or having somebody that you were working with probably was a pretty large lift.
Hmm.
And kind of having that tight grip on what you need to be doing, you
Yeah,
felt like you had to do it all the time.
it was
So I think,
impossible to give stuff up. It was
yeah,
impossible.
so like
It
the
took a
first
trip to the
step,
hospital to get me to finally give them access to my email. I'm serious. I was sitting there
really.
in a hospital bed. I could barely talk, and we were having to walk through doing the permissions to give my EA at the time access to be able to do some things that he needed to do in order to clear my account. I had a jam-packed day. I was in the hospital
Yeah.
like 4 in the morning and woken up with something crazy.
Yeah.
And that was the aha moment. That was the tipping point it was a massive inflection point for me,
Mm,
my ability to trust an executive assistant with
mhm.
receiving emails, understanding what's going on, and replying on my behalf and completing the entire thing in a closed loop without
Yeah.
the need for me to intervene. That was a
Wow.
huge turning point.
So I think the biggest thing, so, this has been a huge operational change for you to save money, make more money, save money, save time.
Mhm.
I think the biggest question would be for other people listening, like, all right, well, that sounds awesome. Chad, you are like light years ahead of me. That's for all the nerds to do. What do I do? What can I do today? I'm operating a business. I'm running a business. How do I do this right now? What's the first step you would take
Mm,
besides going to the hospital? Let's make sure nobody goes to the hospital. We don't
yeah,
want that,
I know.
wish
I
that on
wish it had
anybody.
been easier, right? I must be stubborn. Uh, yeah, it, I think just acknowledging that you need some help scaling, just acknowledging that you need to bring in a specialist to like to handle whatever it is that you don't need to be focused on. And because executive assistants, I mean, that is a professional career. You can rock at that. Everybody's had their favorite executive assistant. And somebody that approaches that as a professional can teach you how to do this. And so I think that that's actually one way you could do it if you have the resources. But starting small. And if it's virtual assistant, go hire a virtual assistant on Upwork. You know, you can get one for $20 an hour, and it's low risk. You can kick tasks over. It's not an expensive mistake if there's a mismatch. And if you've got an executive assistant, lean into utilizing them. But I think probably the lowest lift is just making use of a good general purpose AI tool.
Yeah.
People have
Where do
played.
they get start? Yeah. Where do they get started with
Yeah,
that?
yeah. Well, you might have Copilot as a part of your Microsoft implementation. And if you're using that as a judge for what AI productivity tools can do, you're probably looking through some very foggy windows. So I would go ahead and today being Tuesday. I think today, if you were going to have to take action, it would be to go and just get a Claude paid subscription, the one that at
Hmm.
least gives you access to co-work, and just play around, make up a use case. Have it organize some files or do something that benign, but get your eyes adjusted and open to what you can do. Cloud Cowork came out with an Excel plugin. It sits right there in the Excel sheet. Any type of repetitive task that you might need to do, it's going to do it. And it's going to do it fast. It's going to do it faster than you could look up how to do the formula on Google. Um, so I would say that's a pretty low lift. It's very inexpensive and could potentially save you a few hours. I know that you're a Calendly user. I've been using it for years. That is table stakes. Get that set up. And if your IT department doesn't have it approved, go ahead and do the request. Bite the bullet, reach out to them. They're going to approve it. It's not a difficult approval for them to do. They might make you pay for it, but pay the $20. It's worth it. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the biggest thing I'm hearing is, man, go ahead and start as quickly as possible,
Just
even if
do
it's a
something.
small
Yeah.
task. Do something. Yeah, that's the encouragement. All right, so we've covered a lot of ground here today. I know it's only 15 minutes. That's our commitment. So thanks for spending time with us today on the Work Heartily podcast. If you enjoyed the conversation, please subscribe, share the episode with another founder or leader. Visit workheartily.com to learn how embedded fractional executive leadership can help you and your business thrive and grow. Chad, thank you so much. We will see you next time.
Thanks, guys.